Hi, welcome to Barb's Book Spot.
Hi, welcome to Barb's Book Spot. Today I have some books to share with you that really don't go together nicely in one category unless you look at them in a certain way. So I have two concept books. I have one book that's about color, which is kind of a concept book, and I have one book that's just about creativity and making things beautiful. So I hope you enjoy them. The first one I'd like to share with you is Octopuses 1 to 10. It's written by Ellen Jackson with illustrations by Robin Page, and this is a Beach Lane book. It's published in 2016. All the books I'm doing today are published in 2016. So basically this is a counting book, and it's going to be a perfect book for those of your readers or children that you share with that love octopuses. They're very interesting. What I like about this book is that you can read it on two levels. If you've got a small child and you just want to read one line of text and go through, the larger font up here where it says octopuses like to hide, one is safe and snug inside. You can stop there. Go on to the next page to 2, 3, 4, 5. But if your little one likes octopuses, we've got some additional information here, some details about what you're seeing in the picture and about octopuses in general. Now some pages have one big octopus like we just saw. Some show some smaller features. This one says octopuses in disguise have 4 ways to fool your eyes. And so they go on and they tell different ways that octopus can fool you. They can detach an arm, they can change color, they can hide in the rocks. So there's a lot of interesting information about what octopuses do, how they behave. Another feature that I really like is after we get through the 1 to 10 with that great big large octopus, they show us all different kinds of strange octopuses. And on every page, I don't know if you can see this well, there's a little scale, a chart that shows how big that octopus really is, either in comparison to a human figure or to a hand or something that would be easily recognizable. So this guy here is the mimic octopus. We can see he's about knee-high to a person. This one is called the Dumbo octopus. He looks a little bit like Dumbo, and we see a hand next to it. So we know that octopus is not much bigger than a grown person's hand. And there are several pages of interesting different kinds of octopuses, large and small. And then in the end, you get a bonus activity page. There's some ideas, some crafts, some recipes that you can use to make. So if you have an octopus lover in your family, that might be the birthday theme for this year. So with Oreos and gummy worms and whatever. So another lovely book, a concept book for counting that I think you little ones will enjoy. The next book I'd like to share with you is called Shapeshift. It's by Joyce Hesselberth. And this one is published by Henry Holt. Now this is a concept book about shapes. The first page identifies all the shapes that we're going to see in the book, and they're named. And then we go through the book and we start to create things with those shapes or find those shapes in the picture. So this is a very interactive book. I have a triangle. I have a semicircle. Let's put our shapes together and see what we get. So they try to patch them together, and then each child guesses what they can make. Now, this little girl saw a ballerina, and you can see the shapes, slightly different patterns on them so that we can recognize them, and some lovely poetic text. I see a ballerina twirling, spinning, gliding, floating across the stage. We go on to more shapes and more combinations. This one. Now try. I have a rectangle. I have a circle. What do you see? At this point, I might stop and ask my reader, what do you see? What can you make in your mind's eye with a rectangle and a circle? The little girl sees a fancy hat. And the little boy sees a really cool space-age car. So you're limited only by your own imagination. And then at the end, now it's your turn. Here are some shapes. What do you see? I think if I were using this book in a classroom or even with my little one, I might have some pattern blocks or some geometrically shaped blocks around, or some, maybe cut them out of construction paper and let them actually play and create pictures with the shapes and come up with their ideas. So I think there's lots of room for interactivity, lots of fun to be found in that book. This book is called Yellow Time, and it's by Lauren Stringer. And this is a Beach Lane book also. It's exuberant. I mean, you can look at it's just, It dances, it sings, and it screams yellow. And there's really not a whole lot to it except that there's a metaphor that guides the whole book. So we're talking about yellow time. Now, what is yellow time? When you get to the end of the book, you'll have figured that out. But the whole idea of naming a season or a concept with a name that's something else, sort of a metaphor, I think that's kind of an interesting concept to work with kids on. We see that the squirrels and a lot of the details in the pages are in purple, and yellow and purple are complementary colors. They're opposite each other on the color wheel, and so that makes those little details stand out. So the first page just says the squirrels are too busy to notice and the geese have already gone. Now we know that's leading into a season, but your child might not know. Just before yellow time, the air smells different, like wet mud and dry grass with a sprinkle of sugar. So the text is lovely. It's trying to put you in the moment, put you in the feeling of this beautiful yellow day. We see people start to come in. Again, lots of bendy lines and activity all over. It's a very exuberant, active book. Yellow time only comes once a year. This time we see the activity is concentrated in the middle, lots more open space around. I get the sense those leaves are blowing around. Different feel to this page. And then we see the leaves start to pile up. I see a nice multicultural cast of characters here. I think lots of children will see themselves in this book. And then at the very end, we see children saving some leaves. They're pressing them into a book. Now I want to show you the beginning end paper again, and we see the squirrels busy building things in the trees, and the leaves are still on the trees. In the end, we see the empty trunks, and the leaves are all at the base of the tree. And there's just one lone squirrel up there, and he's scratching around at the base of the tree. So time has passed. A lovely celebration, I think, of autumn in yellow time. But I could see using that as a writing prompt and see if maybe students could write their own book about white time being winter or something like that, or mud time being spring. And the last book I'd like to share with you today, Maybe Something Beautiful, How Art Transformed a Neighborhood. And it's by Isabel Campoy and Teresa Howell, and the illustrations are by Rafael Lopez. And this book was published by Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. This is based on a true story. In San Diego, there was a stretch of neighborhood, an urban neighborhood that was very gray and dismal. And an artist, a mural artist, decided he could make it much more pleasant by painting murals on the walls, and it became a whole urban art movement. So this story is based on that true story. Here's the neighborhood in the beginning, and here's the neighborhood in the end. So we have a little girl as our main character, and she loves to draw, and she loves to share her pictures with everybody. She wants to put some color in her neighborhood. Her room is full of color. Her mind is full of color. She shares her color with everybody in this very gray urban neighborhood, and she puts a picture up on the wall, and just wouldn't you know, that day she sees a man, and he's looking at the wall through his fingers like a frame, and she says, "What are you doing?" And he said, "What do you see?" And she said, "Maybe something beautiful." Well, this is our mural artist. Now, this artist also did the illustrations for this book. So this is Rafael Lopez, and he is a mural artist, but he did the illustrations as well. So little by little, they begin to beautify the neighborhood. And it wasn't just him. Raphael encouraged neighborhood people to participate, children to participate. And then they painted benches, and then they planted flowers, and then they made mosaics as flower pots around, or planters around the flowers. And we see the whole neighborhood comes together to make this a beautiful place, and everybody's involved. Now I'm going to pause here for a minute because I showed you some concept books. You don't have to have a concept book to teach concepts. You can use any book to reinforce or teach concepts. You could count the people here. You could count the flowers here. You could look for shapes in this picture. You could look for colors in this picture. So there's all kinds of ways you can interact with a book like this beyond just the story. And you don't want to bog down doing that, but it's also very fun to do that, depending on your child. Read the book a new way every time you read it. And then when we get to the end, we have information about the actual project, and this is set in San Diego. At the end, it was on Cesar Chavez Boulevard, and it was in East Village in San Diego, California, where they created this space. And it's still there. They've actually painted benches and sold them for money to go back and do more in the neighborhood. So we see some actual photographs of the murals and of the people working there. So I think this is a lovely book to share. You can reinforce concepts, you have a great story, and you learn a little bit about a wonderful, beautiful place in California. As always, happy reading.